Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I stepped in a little bit late, so I'm sorry if this question was already asked. If it has, I've got a backup one just in case. But with the two of you, like the two original creative threads of the Transformers, the progenitors, with the comic book and the...
We should have used
shows.
protection.
Yeah. We won't get into the mummy and big mummy on big daddy discussion here, but with the two of you, there's the two versions of the Matrix, the Autobot Matrix of leadership with Ron and Bob. You had the creation Matrix that was just part of Optimus, and that was how they propagated. Basically, he was the only one to do it. So I was just hoping you could speak to just the plot mechanics as narrative devices in your storytelling, how those matrices or matrices, whatever is grammatically correct, work for you and how they help shape your stories.
Well, with the creation matrix, as I've said earlier, I was challenged by Hasbro every few months to bring in new characters. So if you remember the original storyline behind Transformers, it involved a spaceship from Cybertron that crash landed on Earth millions of years ago, and all the Autobots and all the Decepticons that were involved in the initial conflict were on that one spaceship until Hasbro introduced new lines of toys. And so then, once they introduced new lines of toys, I had to figure out, well, how am I going to introduce new characters? You know, I'm limited by this, you know, this backstory that was given to me. So one of the ways I came up with was, okay, there's a power to create mechanical life form under the right conditions, and that's the creation matrix. And I gave that to Optimus Prime, being that, you know, he's the noble, godlike leader of the Autobots. So that was just a plot device to help introduce new characters, which I thought worked really well and obviously got a lot of traction.
Well, Bob, again, is describing what you're asking for, which is an insight into the creative process. If anybody could actually present a kind of sequential and logical way to encapsulate it so that all who hear it could become creative, we would make a hell of a lot of money because we could guarantee creativity. There is no guarantee. It's very personal. It's the summation of all life experience to anybody who is creative and then must produce a product which is the result of that creativity. Think of the following situation. You're in a restaurant, two guys in ski masks come in with guns. The person sitting across from you is the sheriff. What happens? Nothing? Something? Who lives, who dies? Why would you care? We don't care about people we don't know. That's why so many stormtroopers can die in Star Wars. Nobody says, oh, look, they got the third guy on the left. He was a good one. You don't care. So the trick is always to create the sense of life and an individuality, because we do relate to other people. And also, story is the essence of the human experience. And I'm going to tell you about a panel I was invited to by neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, brain scientists, and so on at the Skirball Center in Los Angeles. The panel I was selected to appear with was one of neurosciences, brain scientists, and so on. And the leading doctor began by saying, all of our studies have revealed that the human experience can best be summed up in these three words: story, story, story. Without story, we are alone in the universe. Without story, we wonder what comes next. Without story, we are concerned every moment that that moment may be our last. And now I'd like to turn it over to someone else to talk about the use of virtual reality to examine the human need for story. And here was the story. A clinically depressed group of people, of subjects. Clinical depression is not like, gee, I'm so sad the Dodgers lost. No, clinical depression is serious. So a group of clinically depressed patients agreed to participate in this study, and this was the study. Each patient was set up with virtual reality, and here was the story they needed to interact with. A young girl with diabetes is in a coma. You must get insulin to her before they set a clock, or she will die. Go. And now before their eyes, in virtual reality, a maze appears, and each participant tries to navigate the maze, and when they come out, they're on top of a building. And they look on top of a building, and a voice says, "You can fly." At which point, they fly, and taking some directions from promontories, they find a laboratory. They go in, they find the insulin, and then they take off. They must get it to the hospital. The clock is ticking. They get it to the hospital. A nurse injects the little girl, and she wakes up. And the voice says, "You have saved her life." They are monitoring brain activity during all of this. And as this clinically depressed person hunts for the answer, provides the answer, and saves that girl's life, their brain lights up as if all the endorphins in the universe are kicking in. And at the end of that, each of these clinically depressed persons has become altruistic. It's no longer about them. They want to save. They feel good about themselves. The question I asked, and I was there to ask questions, is how do you turn it off? How do you turn off that sense of being, in a way, super so that you could save a life? They said, "That's interesting. That's our question too. Why do you ask?" And I said, for the following reason. In a Roman triumph, which was a parade by a victorious general through the streets of Rome, it was Roman law that behind the general on his chariot, a man would stand and repeat, "Remember thou art but a man. Remember thou art but a man." In other words, don't be swept away by this adulation. You have not become Caesar. You have not become God. But this is the power of storytelling, and when you can make someone feel that they are participating in the story, and that's what good writing does, those watching, those reading, feel they're participating, you are giving them that endorphin cocktail. You are helping them to envision themselves as stronger and better. So to me, that's fascinating, and to me, that's part of the appeal and the addictive quality of stories that make us feel better about ourselves and the world.
It's awesome, Ron. Price of admission right there. Thank you.
Thank you.